it's Jennifer from Flux. In this video, we're going to learn how to make these cute yarn wrapped eggs. These are just some simple plastic eggs that you can find pretty much anywhere right now. And I use some cotton yarn, and it's a really great project to use up some yarn scraps, some ribbon scraps. I have some buttons here, and I had a whole lot of fun decorating them. So let's get started. For this project, you're going to need some eggs. Now, I'm going to be using plastic eggs. These are the kind that kind of pop open and you can put treats in them. These are pretty much everywhere right now. You can get them in big packs and they're very inexpensive. They also have wood eggs at the craft store. You could use those, any egg form really that you like. And we're also going to be using Red Heart Scrubby Smoothie as our yarn today. Now, each ball, this is 153 yards. We're going to just be using small amounts to cover our egg. And this is really soft yarn from Red Heart, and it's comes in many, many different colors. Here's a few I have here. I grabbed some springy colors. And if you notice, my eggs correspond to the color of yarn that I'll be using. Now, this isn't completely necessary, but if you're wrapping yarn around your eggs, it will blend in a little bit nicer if you have a little gap in your yarn or something like that. Also, you're going to need a pair of scissors, a tapestry needle, and some glue. I'm going to be using hot glue, but you could use any strong glue of your choice, like tacky glue or something like that. And as an option, only if you want to, you can grab some scrap ribbon, because we're going to learn how to put a hanging loop onto our eggs as well. But you could also use yarn for your hanging loop. And I also grabbed some buttons because later on we're going to be embellishing our eggs, and this is also optional. So let's get started. Okay, so I have my aqua yarn and a blue egg. Now these holes, there are holes at the tops and the bottom. As you can see, they put these on here as a safety precaution. I believe it's because it's a suffocation hazard. But if you don't have these, you can do your ribbon like this, sort of, almost like a basket handle, and use your hot glue to glue it. We're going to use the holes to tie our hanging loop, and the holes are a little bit small. So I grabbed a little pair of scissors, and I'm just going to sort of drill into these holes a little bit to sort of open them up, and that will help us get our tapestry needle through here. So go ahead and thread your needle. Otherwise, they're very difficult to get the needle through. So just take your ribbon and thread it in there and go in one direction through the top. It is still a little tight, but it's workable. And then take your other one and thread that, and then go in from the top, and that utilizes these holes, and it looks very cute. You don't have to do the hanging loop, it's completely optional, but I know a lot of people like to make egg trees, and this is a cute way to do that. So you can make your hanging loop larger or smaller. And then what you'll want to do is take your ribbon and go ahead and tie it just like that into a knot, and then you can trim it. It's not really super important because it's just going to be inside of the egg. And then you can give it a little tug, and your hanging loop is ready to go. As a side note, you could just kind of hang them up as is, really, if you like the way that looks. But these are yarn wrapped eggs, so we're going to get started with that part. So what we want to do is get your yarn. And then what we're going to do next is take our yarn. Now, we didn't cut it or anything. We're just going to kind of keep it on here like this. And then we want to grab our hot glue. And you want to be careful because we are working with plastic. If you don't go too heavy on the hot glue, it won't interrupt or interfere with the surface here. But if you get a giant hot blob of this glue on here, it could go through. But I experimented a little bit with this, and it was okay. But so what we want to do is try to get a little bit on the top here, and then just sort of, whoops, just sort of paint it on. And anytime you're working with hot glue, especially if you're doing this project with children, you want to be very, very careful. Now, you don't want to cover the entire egg at first because it dries quickly and hardens quickly. So you just want to get like a little string like this, and lay it flat, and then just start to coil the yarn. Okay, now it'll stick to the glue, it'll kind of cling on there, but you want to just see how I'm going in like a spiral, and I'm just sort of laying it. It's the glue is kind of sticking to it, and you can press it down a little bit more as you go, but just be very, very careful not to burn your hands. I can't tell you how many millions of times I've burnt my fingers with hot glue. Now see how once I got a little bit of yarn on there, I was able to kind of press it down, okay? All right, now let me just zoom in a little bit so you can see what I'm doing here. All right, now anytime you need to add this, my glue is sort of setting up a little bit, so I want to just add another little layer here of it. And try not to get it where your yarn is because you don't want it to look messy. You want it to look nice and neat. Try to get it as perfect looking as possible. And really try and stick to that egg shape, okay? Whoops, I just touched the glue. It's super hot. I think after some of us crafty folks have worked with hot glue for so long and so many years, we're almost like immune to it. We have like fire resistant fingers in a way. But you can get some really awful blisters from hot glue. So just please try and be careful as you work your yarn eggs, okay? It's best to sort of hold your egg at the bottom, okay? So once you get some yarn on there, and I get the glue crumbs off my hands, you can just, see I'm using just quick motions. You don't want to really get your fingers into that glue much. Okay, now let's do another layer. We're just working a little bit of glue at a time here. Now we are going to add some embellishments. So if you're thinking your glue is oozing out all over the place and you're just not loving it, you can always, we're going to add a little bit of ribbon, we're going to add some buttons, and you can really add some embellishments to this. Okay, so we're just going all the way around our egg. Okay, so we've wrapped our yarn all the way up and we're at the top. So I wanted to just show you how to do that part. You want to just put some glue right there and just go around the hanging loop if you've done a hanging loop. If not, it's a little bit easier, but you're just going to sort of thread it into the hanging loop. But it is easier to do the hanging loop first. And then we're just going to kind of set it down in there just like that. And then just sort of thread it back in there. We're just trying to get a nice, neat coil at the top, okay? And then what we can do is put a little blob of glue. And this is where these decorative buttons come in handy, because you can kind of, if you have a spot that's a little bare, or if you left like this right here, like see how I have a little bit of gap here, the little pieces of ribbon and such will be helpful. So I just trimmed it at the top and then sort of patted it down, okay? So a lot of times hot glue leaves these little strings. You want to get those strings off as well. So when you're finished with your egg and you've gotten all the yarn around your egg, then you can grab some more ribbon. And see, I'm going to go around this area where I left a little bit of a gap. You might want to be a tiny bit more careful than I was with mine. But if you do have these instances, then you can take your ribbon, and it looks like a decorated egg if you do this. Just bring it all the way around like so. And just sort of tack it down, and then you can put a little tiny drop there. The name of the game with this project is just trying to get things as neat as possible, okay? All right, so we have a band here, and we can also, I have some silk cord that is pretty. You could use whatever you have on hand. This is one of those really wonderful stash busting projects that you can get rid of some ribbon, some extra yarn, and just kind of decorate your eggs however you like. And if you notice, I'm bringing both this cord here and the ribbon to the back. See where my seams are ending up? And that way you can make this face outward, like if you're putting it on a tree or hanging it. These would even look cute across a mantle as well. So you could put them on the mantle. You could put them across a window. It would be very, very festive. Okay, so we're just going to get all that tacked down nice and neat. And then I have these really cute buttons. We can add some buttons to our eggs. Now I am just going crazy with mine with the decor, but you could make yours plain as well. So I'm just going to go around my egg and add some polka dots next with these buttons. These are plastic, I believe they call them craft buttons. They come in a great big bag and they are inexpensive. You usually get like 50 or 100. You get a big bag of them and you get all these bright colors. I have some over here that are shapes, and you can really use these for a lot of things. I use these buttons a lot for a lot of crochet projects and things like that as well. Okay, so let's get a few more buttons on here. Okay, and then we have a very pretty little decorated egg. So let's make a few more of these and then we'll rejoin and embellish some more eggs. Okay, so I went and wrapped yarn around the rest of my eggs, and I did this one kind of like a polka dot. I made this one a little bit more minimal with just a heart, and I used the wider ribbon. I did try that and it looks really cute. And then this one I was trying to make sort of look like a Fabergé egg and make extra fancy. And then this one was more stripy. So just some ideas if you have some embellishments or some extra buttons laying around. This is also great, like if you have a single button and you really don't know what to do with it. This is just a really fun yarn craft project. So I hope you enjoyed these eggs, and if you make these eggs on your own, be sure to share them on social media using the hashtag #FiberFlux tag. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure and click the subscribe button to get all the latest FiberFlux video updates. Thanks again!